I don't think Ben Simmons understands how screwed he is. I really think he's a little bit delusional in regards to his status, and there was a brand new article that came to us via ESPN from Ramona Shelburne that gives you an idea of how screwed this man truly is. I mean, at the time that we're recording this video, he's lost about $19 million so far, and it gets way worse. So before we get to the content, just a reminder, we're giving away an Instagram follower $500. All you have to do is follow at TheFlightMike on Instagram. And now that we get all that out of the way, cue the intro. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? The Ben Simmons situation just seems to get more and more bizarre. Let's start this video off on a great note, which is last night, Tyrese Maxey once again proved to us that he could be the starting point guard for the Philadelphia 76ers, and this team is a championship contender with him at the point guard position. I mean, the Philadelphia 76ers are currently on a 5-game winning streak. They're number 3 in the Eastern Conference, which if you look at the Eastern Conference currently, number 3 in the Eastern Conference is practically number 1 in the Eastern Conference because they are half a game behind the Chicago Bulls and the Miami Heat. Anyone could win it at this point. As a matter of fact, the entire East is so freaking neck and neck with each other that it's actually unbelievable. Take a look at this, man. 1st through 5th place is a toss-up, and 6th place is what 2nd place should be. You have the Hornets that are even in it. You have the Raptors that are in it. Hell, even the Celtics could potentially make a 5th seed at this point. And one of the beautiful things that the Philadelphia 76ers said is that they are using this Ben Simmons situation as motivation to play as well as they can. Now, that's a beautiful way to take this situation because I don't know how you could look at your teammate and say, hey, this is supposed to be one of our franchise cornerstones, one of our leaders, and he doesn't want to play basketball for us, and he doesn't mind sitting out and actually hurting his trade value from the fact that he's not playing, because the last time we've seen Ben Simmons play, his last performance was a huge disappointment, and there hasn't been any performances since that performance to give us a different image of Ben Simmons. A good example of this, man, is I don't know if you guys watch football. I know some douchebag named Microphone that makes content. In one of his videos, he mentioned how Jimmy Garoppolo was trending upward up until this last game where he had a poor showing in the NFC Championship during his final moments. And unfortunately, that's what people are going to remember Jimmy Garoppolo as. When they're trading for him, they're going to say, oh, what about that poor showing in the past 2 quarters? That's recency bias, unfortunately. Now, in the case of Ben Simmons, it seems like more information is coming out in regards to what he perceives Joel Embiid to be. So this is all coming to us from a Ramona Shelburne article, which is absolutely insane. It's a deep dive on the Ben Simmons situation with Joel Embiid included. It starts out by giving us a insight as to what's going on in Philadelphia in regards to Ben Simmons and his whereabouts and how often he interacts with the team, saying that Simmons lives about 15 minutes away from the team's headquarters, and as a member of the team, he's free to work out there anytime he wants. But this was not just any night. This was game night, and the Sixers were in the midst of an important homestand in Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia. But instead of being on the court with his teammates as they went 12-3 in January and rose to within half a game of first place in the Eastern Conference, Simmons was 20 minutes away working out with his personal team of trainers, trying to stay ready in case he is traded to a new team. Shelburne actually gives a little bit of a boost to Ben Simmons' stock here by saying, by all accounts, Ben Simmons is in great shape. But according to sources close to Simmons and within the Sixers organization, he continues to tell the team and those who represent him that he is not mentally ready to get back on the court again, not now and not ever in Philadelphia. It has been 7 months since he asked the Sixers to explore a trade for him and nearly 4 months since he returned to Philadelphia. He has not meaningfully participated in a practice or even a film session since, and he has just been there in body but never in spirit. Now, this is where it gets a little bit more interesting because Ramona Shelburne goes a little bit deeper into Ben Simmons' perception of Joel Embiid, stating that according to sources close to Simmons, he's upset that Embiid seemed to blame him for last season's playoff loss, when Simmons did not blame Embiid for Embiid's poor showing in the playoffs against the Toronto Raptors in 2019. He's frustrated that Rivers didn't come to see him while he was training in Los Angeles last summer. Here's the thing that bothers me, because he had a bunch of teammates come over to Los Angeles to try to visit him, and he turned the plane back. People have made an effort to reach out to Ben Simmons, but it gets a little worse. Simmons doesn't dispute that he didn't reply when Rivers texted him and called him several times over the summer asking to see him. But in hindsight, Simmons feels Rivers and the Sixers could have done more, like show up at a well-known gym in San Fernando Valley where he was training. Bro, what are you, a girl? Are you serious? Are you guys reading this right now? Literally in the paragraph before, it says that Ben Simmons is frustrated that Doc Rivers didn't come to see him while he was training in Los Angeles. In the very next paragraph, he also says,
"Hey, yeah, I didn't respond to Doc Rivers when he texted and called me several times over the summer trying to come see me.
But I feel like Doc Rivers and the Sixers could have done more."
It's not like your entire team was doing everything they possibly could to mend the fences with you, despite you clearly being the reason for a premature downfall in the playoffs last year. This part I think is absolutely ridiculous, but this next part makes a lot of sense, saying that Ben Simmons is also skeptical of Sixers president of basketball operations Daryl Morey's willingness to trade him because of his previous pursuit of James Harden, who can become a free agent this summer. Simmons would be the best player the Sixers would send in any theoretical trade, and he's upset that the organization is finding him so heavily after he raised mental health as an issue upon his return. Now this is where it gets pretty interesting, because he's frustrated that the Sixers are finding him, right? But what he goes on to say later on in this article is, and I quote, "We don't give a about the money." Well, clearly in that article it says that he is frustrated by the Sixers finding him, and I would be frustrated if the Sixers were finding me too. One of my favorite YouTubers is a guy by the name of Spencer Cornelia. He made a remarkable video in regards to Ben Simmons' financial situation and how poorly he spends his money. This is a guy that spends money on exotic cars, has 2 mansions in Philadelphia, and doesn't necessarily have any assets generating him passive income as well. He was able to flip his old house for a profit, but he doesn't necessarily seem like the investing type to me. And it's funny, man, because he's saying we don't care about the money, but he clearly cares about the money. And you even have Rich Paul, his agent, trying to convince Ben Simmons to return to play basketball, saying, according to sources with knowledge of the conversation, Rich Paul told Simmons that while he understood Simmons wasn't mentally ready to get on the court because of the 4 years remaining on his contract, they simply had no leverage if he didn't at least return to the team. And Ben Simmons returned to the team as a quote-unquote show of good faith between him and the Philadelphia 76ers, but apparently he was offended when the Sixers still fined him for not playing in the final preseason game, even after he rushed to arrive at the arena before tip-off. Whatever good faith he thought he was showing, it hadn't been appreciated. Over the next few days, Simmons' meetings with team officials and staffers were short and unproductive, according to sources, but eventually Simmons opened up, telling management, coaches, and his teammates that he did not feel mentally ready to play. The team immediately shifted its posture towards supporting him. Tobias Harris spoke publicly about how meaningful it was for Simmons to confide in his teammates. Embiid even told the Wells Fargo Center crowd on opening night that I urge you guys to continue to support us and our teammate Ben because he's still our brother. But the goodwill didn't last long. Simmons refused the mental health services offered by the team, instead telling the Sixers he was seeing a mental health professional he'd found through the National Basketball Players Association, but wasn't comfortable sharing details. The Sixers were in a tough situation because it's standard practice for players to see their own specialists outside of the team doctors, but it's also standard practice for those outside doctors to update the team on their diagnosis and treatment recommendations. Things got to a boiling point on October 19th when Simmons was scheduled to speak to the media after practice as a contractual obligation, and Simmons had even agreed to it. However, he did not engage in any preparation with the team's public relations staff, with whom he'd previously enjoyed strong relationships. Instead, he talked through what he intended to say with those in his camp. According to sources close to Simmons, his message would be simple: I'm not in a great place mentally, I don't feel comfortable playing in this environment, and I'm looking forward to a change of scenery. Except Ben Simmons never did deliver that message. Earlier that day, Rivers asked him to engage in a practice drill. Simmons refused and was promptly sent home. A short time later, he was suspended for conduct detrimental to the team. Now, it gets a little bit more into how much money this man has lost recently. He has lost $19 million in fines since the season began. Each game costs him $360,000. He hasn't cleared a paycheck since the $8.25 million, which is 25% of his salary, that was due to him on October 1st. Every 2 weeks, the team sends a notice with an explanation of all the fines he has accumulated for failing to render services, instead of a $1.375 million paycheck. By the end of the season, if he does not play for the Sixers or any other team, Simmons could lose another $12 million. It is a staggering amount of money. Everyone involved assumes this issue will eventually be settled in arbitration, but those close to Simmons, who has earned upward of $60 million over his career, insists that his decision to demand a trade and and then not to play until he is traded, has never been financially motivated. He wants a fresh start away from the franchise he doesn't feel comfortable playing for anymore. We don't give a about the money. That's not what it is. It's hard for people to understand, but if you believe in what you are doing, that is not the right situation for you, and you're trying to get to a better place, the money doesn't matter. Obviously, it's a financial hit, but you adjust. Another source that is close to Ben Simmons says it's easy to tell when someone is hurt when they have a cast on their arm, but this is mental health. You can't always see it, but ask yourself how many people would lose $1 over this. That should tell you everything. Look, I'm extremely sensitive to mental health, but I also feel like it is an obligation to anyone in a business environment to just be reasonable and realistic with expectations. I mean, when you are provided a contract to fulfill a service, you need to provide that service in order to get paid. It's like if I have a plumber that needs to come over and fix a leaky valve. If the plumber calls me and says,
"Hey man, I'm not mentally ready to come and fix your leaky valve,"
I'm not gonna say, "Oh man, your mental health is suffering, let me give you money." I'll say, "Okay, stay back," and I'll go ahead and find someone else to fill your role. I understand what you're going through, but I am not going to pay you because you are not mentally capable of doing what you need to do. There's a lot of contradictions in here. It seems like it's always stemming back to Ben Simmons not being mentally ready to play. I don't know what could snap him out of it because he's stuck. He's in NBA purgatory. He can't play to improve his trade value. The Sixers probably won't trade him until the end of the season because, hell, it's saving them a ton of money so far. And then Daryl Morey could get his prized possession potentially. And if he doesn't, then we'll see what happens then. But it's just a shame that this man is going to lose $30 million. He's quickly running out of money. There's been reports of him potentially going broke, and we are in the situation that he is in currently. I hope that his mental health recovers because he clearly is suffering if he is frustrated with the amount of money that he is losing, yet he doesn't care that he is losing money. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about all this. Let me know if I was way too harsh on the man. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.